Hey, this is Rachel Friedman, and you are listening to Mastering the Craft of Coaching. The entry bar in our coaching industry is really low. So to compete in the coaching industry, you have to be really fucking incredible at your craft. That's why every week I will be sharing my tips, tools, and stories to help you become an incredible coach for your clients. Truthfully, this is the backbone of your business, and it is what is going to make you a sought-after coach with a thriving business with clients who are sending you referral after referral after referral. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Mastering the Craft of Coaching. I am excited for this episode today as it is a little piece from my masterclass that I led last week in my group, The Anatomy of an Effective Coaching Session. Today on the podcast, we're going to talk about the top 3 mistakes that I see so many coaches making, and that's actually keeping you from getting your clients, helping your clients achieve the sustainable results that they desire. So if your clients right now aren't getting results, as quickly or as effectively as you want to listen to this episode till the end. And I would really suggest listen to the masterclass. There is a link for it. If you're on my email list, if you're not on my email list, send me a message. I'll get you the link so you can get that replay, because it's just this, and I just go into so much more detail. But for today, we're going to try to keep this really succinct, not ramble on too much, hopefully. And I'm going to share with you those 3 mistakes so you can stop, right? You can be mindful of them, be aware of them, be present to them. And then what you can actually do now as you move forward. So I hope you're excited to listen, to dive in. This might be one of those episodes that you want to grab a notebook and jot down some notes. I don't know, but I'm one of those people. I remember when I started early on in my coaching business, I would actually keep a notebook in my car. And I know this is probably totally illegal and maybe not the best advice, guys, but I would actually have this little notebook. And if I heard something that I wanted to remember, I would just take a little note. I might even just recall around where in the podcast it was so I could go back and listen. I will be completely honest. I am that person who had a notebook and probably sometimes was writing way too many notes while I was driving. So I don't know. Is that as bad as texting and driving? Okay, the answer is yes, probably, Rachel. Anyways, I don't do it anymore. Actually, I don't even actually listen to a ton of podcasts, to be honest, anymore that have to do with coaching. I'm really into true crime these days. I'm listening to one right now about the Long Island serial killer, and it's really good. And it's really heartbreaking, actually. Anyways, I'm not going to go on a tangent. You should go listen to it. I think it's called Lisk, the Long Island serial killer. I found it a little slow at start, but then once it gets into the story and the details, I found it really interesting. And yeah, anyways, okay, so let's dive in today, because anyone who knows me, I could go on a tangent forever and ever. And unlike often, I kind of plan out the podcast in advance. I have like my points and my notes. And today I'm just going to literally have a conversation with you. I'm going to talk to you based off of, like I said, the masterclass that I led last week. Also, if you're listening to this podcast in real time and you have listened to the masterclass, or you came live, or you listened to the replay, you should know Thursday, when this episode comes out, I think it'll be the next day, I'm going to be leading another class, and it's actually in the anatomy of an effective coaching session. There were 6 core elements that I believe you need to tap on throughout the session. And one of those elements is inquiry. Inquiry is something that I have been studying and practicing for the last 2 decades, and I'm breaking it down into 5 simple steps. It's one of the processes inside of my program. So if you want to get that, make sure to join that live class, it's actually not going to be in my group. It's going to be its own separate Zoom link so we can get intimate, so I can give you an example, so I can take someone through it. You'll want to get that. And the way to get access to that is I'll make sure it's in the show notes, but also you can just always just message me, hey, Rachel, Instagram, Facebook, email, wherever. I'd like to join, and I will make sure you get that link and you can join us, or at least get the replay for it. All right, guys, so let's dive in today. Let's dive into those top 3 mistakes that so many coaches are making. So I first want to just point out that coaching, I really believe, is an art. Okay. And it didn't come naturally to me, honestly, at first. I've worked and refined it over many, many years now. And now that I have it figured out, I really want to make sure as many coaches, as many of you as possible, I can make your lives easier, right? And one of the ways I believe I can make your lives easier is by sharing the things I've learned along the way. So you don't have to maybe go through the same trials and tribulations, go through all the years of that nonsense, and you can just skip that step. The truth is when you show up for your calls grounded and present, right? Your coaching is going to literally change so many lives. I know it. Okay. You're going to get on a call. You're going to be filled with absolute confidence that you know what to say when, that you'll have no underlying fear that someone is going to say something that is going to throw you off guard. And this is really essential. And so today I'm going to talk about those mistakes, like I mentioned, so you can start being mindful if you're falling into them. And if you are, literally no worries, guys. The only reason I'm so aware and present of them is I did all of them. And a lot of coaches that come to my program, especially my level 1 program, they are making them just like you. It's not a big deal. It's part of navigating your journey in this work. So literally, whether you're a health coach, relationship, weight loss, career, business, it doesn't matter. These same mistakes come across, I see, all the different fields of coaching. Okay. If you're thinking right now that you don't fit into this category, I still really suggest listen, because what I'm going to share right now, I think might apply to lots of different people in the way they approach different things, for example, in life and business. Okay. So let's dive right in to these 3 mistakes that I see. And the first mistake is that you have been given a script or a process to follow by maybe a certification program, another coach, or maybe you read a book, right? Or you listen to a podcast and you're trying to follow this other person's script process to a T. So much that when your client's problem doesn't fit in to that formula, your brain actually freaks out. Okay. And so what does this look like? How do you know if you're even falling into this category? And so it can look like you take a lot of notes on your calls. If you don't really feel fully present with your client, like maybe they're talking and you're taking notes and you miss the next thing they say. If it feels like you're actually trying to check things off on a list, if you're talking a lot during your sessions, giving a lot of advice, not leaving space for the client to process or to think. These are just a few signs, symptoms that you might be making this first mistake. Look, guys, because you are so attached to this process, this script, my guess is you're spending more time thinking about what to say next, what questions to ask next. You aren't actually present hearing what the client is saying right now. And not being fully present is actually going to stop you from truly being able to help your client move forward. And I know that you have good intentions. Okay. So I don't want to assume that you don't, but this can actually slow down your client's progress. Often you might find your clients keep coming back with the same problem over and over. Another sign is your client being resistant to your coaching, not making any progress at all. So for example, maybe your client gets coached on a specific strategy and then comes back the next week telling you, nope, it didn't work for her. Or you coach a client on a situation with her partner and she comes back the next week and it's like deja vu, right? Groundhog Day. She has applied absolutely nothing that you talked about from your coaching session. And I know that you probably want people who show up that are receptive to your coaching and want to implement and make the changes that you come up with in your sessions. So if this sounds familiar, like I said, I want you to know you aren't alone. Okay. That is the first mistake that I see so many clients making. The second one, as I see coaches making, is winging their calls, right? So they show up totally prepared. And then, so let me give you an example of like maybe you wake up, you have your first coaching call at 10 a.m. You go look at, you take your kid to school and then you race back in the house, grab a cup of coffee, shove some food in your mouth. And before you know it, it's 10 o'clock. And you've actually done nothing to ground yourself for this call. You haven't actually even reviewed any notes from the previous week. You haven't taken any time to actually clean your own brain, right? Your own stuff that's coming up for you. So you feel so ungrounded. And when your client joins the call, you start to feel like this like icky feeling maybe in your stomach. Your palms maybe start to sweat and you notice you're a bit nervous. And that nervousness, I want you to know, likely is coming because that fear that you're going to be found out that you might be an imposter or that you don't really know what you're doing. Look, guys, these coaches, if you fall in this category, often are questioning themselves a lot, questioning after the call, was that session effective? Did we make any progress? Did the client receive value from the call? Coaches who fall in this category may be struggling to show up and market themselves, right? Or maybe marketing themselves, but struggling to attract clients. Coaches who are completely winning calls, I see often are actually rebelling against a script or following any form of structure. They're thinking that following a structure, a script, is wrong. And so they've totally banned any form of planning. Coaches that are making this mistake will often notice clients who cancel last minute for their sessions, clients who show up with nothing to coach on, clients struggling with making any progress towards their goals, and lots of self-sabotage. You might also see that you feel like you're also self-sabotaging. So if number 2 is resonating with you, I want you to know that the first step is just being aware. Being aware I'm making these mistakes. And it's then from this place that we can then clean it up and move forward. Okay. So the third mistake is that I've seen, and I see this a lot, is that some coaches have an agenda and they're very attached to their agenda. Like they have a very, very specific order that they want their client to go through. And so they try to mold their client into their agenda. And they have no flexibility when it comes to flowing with where the clients are currently at. They've decided that they believe that they know what is best for the client and the steps that the client needs to take in order to hit their goal. And if you're like these coaches, you may be very attached to your process. And when the client veers from the process, you get flustered, begin to doubt yourself and how to actually proceed with the call. And of course, this rigidity slows down your client's progress because when a coach is falling into this pattern, you might see clients hitting plateaus, hitting roadblocks. How many of you have had a client make some progress and then completely just stall out and your client starts canceling last minute or starts falling into old habits and patterns? Look, guys, the coaching relationship is being affected negatively in these situations because there's no safety in place, right? You're not meeting your client where they're at. And you're coming, my guess, from very good intentions, but those good intentions are actually keeping you from helping your client be fully seen, heard, and validated. Okay. I want you to know if you've fallen into any of these categories, you aren't alone. In my opinion, you aren't to blame either. Many certifications, programs provide you with a very specific process. They provide you with scripts. So, of course, you lean on them. And in many ways, they can be useful to have some structure in the beginning. However, when you become very attached to them, relying on them, you lose literally a piece of yourself and your unique brilliance. That part of you that really is what makes the magic happen on the calls. And if you're trying to get it right, there's really no room even for your own coach's intuition. I know you've been told if you don't follow the specific process, then your clients won't get results. But it's not true, guys. There isn't a specific step-by-step process that works on every human. Humans are all unique and different. Each has had a different experience, and it's important that we treat them that way. So it's important that you have a process that provides structure, but also allows you to be fluid and flow in your sessions. And that's exactly what I cover in that anatomy of an effective coaching session. So what do you do if you're making these mistakes, guys? What if you're trying to follow the script word for word, right? And you show up and use a question, and then your client answers the question, and you're thinking intuitively, I want to take them deeper here, but my script, my process tells me, no, I have to go on to this next question. And like how many of you just ditch your intuition and go for the next question instead of going deeper? And the truth is the best thing you can do is start to listen to your intuition, start to be more in tune to it, take that client deeper, ditch the script, and instead have a process where you know exactly the elements you need to tap into without feeling confined to a box. But it also requires, right, if you're making that second mistake of winging it, showing up grounded, grounding your own nervous system. It is essential before you get on a call. And then when your client gets on a call, helping them get grounded, right? It's having a process that's fluid, that allows you freedom, but also gives you structure in terms of directing the call, making sure certain points get hit upon. So if you're making any of these mistakes, put your hand on your heart and know you aren't alone. And step one is being aware of them. That's simple. Step two is we start to clean them up by having a process, like I mentioned, like the anatomy of an effective coaching session, knowing those 6 elements, right? Which I'm actually going to share on next week's podcast. And then using those 6 elements with your own tools and integrating it into your sessions. These 6 core elements that I share next week, they are key, guys. They are key in progress. And I know because I have seen it not just work for my clients. And when I've skipped them, clients not getting as moving as far along as I wanted, my clients using it on their clients and seeing what happens. So the answer here is we need structure without rigidity. We need to be aware of when are we not trusting ourselves, our coach's intuition, and how do we strengthen that? And that's something I go way deep in my program in the Live Your Dharma coaching certification. So if that's something you're struggling with, trusting yourself, trusting your own intuition, your coach's intuition, then I really highly recommend that you look into this program, because that you are going to leave with. You're going to leave with that deep level of self-trust, which honestly is more valuable than probably anything in life. You need to be able to ground yourself and be able to help ground your client. And if you don't have those resources right now, again, it's essential. I would say if you take anything from this episode right now, that is first and foremost the most important thing. Because we can't make change from an ungrounded nervous system, from a state of fight or flight. We have to be grounded. And it's not to say you're going to be grounded all day long, all the time. No, you're not. We move through nervous system states. They're all there for a reason. But when we're trying to make change, we must be in what we call a ventral state, which we go way deep into the Live Your Dharma program. So you have the resources to ground yourself and to ground your clients so you can make change, they can make change. That's not superficial, that's sustainable, that's lasting. So just to recap, there are 3 mistakes that 80% of coaches are making that we want to be very heightened aware of, and then we want to do the work to clean them up. And the first mistake, like I mentioned, is trying to fit your coaching into a script. The second mistake is totally winging it. And the third one is having a process that you are overly attached to. And the biggest mistake that happens when you're in this third mistake, I want to mention real quickly, is that you step out of coach mode very often into consultant mode. And what does that look like? It means giving advice. And I want to say this, and I want to say this loud and clear, because I think it's really important as coaches, we remind ourselves this, that our job is not to tell our clients what to do. Our job is to guide our clients back to their inner knowing, that wisdom that lives from within. And that wisdom is what is going to tell them what to do. So if you find yourself as a coach giving a lot of advice, telling your clients what to do, just know you've stepped into consultant mode and decide, do I want to be a consultant or do I want to be a coach? Neither one is right or wrong. Sometimes, yes, we might add a little consulting to our coaching, but truly as coaches, I believe our job is to find that wisdom in each individual, help them tap into it, because that is the power. That's what makes coaching so powerful, because when you tap into your own unique wisdom, that's when we make change sustainable. That's when we hit goals. And that's when it feels fucking amazing. All right, guys, that's what I have for you today. If you would like a link to the anatomy of an effective coaching session, the entire masterclass, it's about 1 hour and 20 minutes. I will drop it in the show notes. If you'd like to join us Thursday and understand the 5 simple steps to mastering self-inquiry, come join me Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern. I hope you all have a fantastic week. Next week on the podcast, we're going to go through those 6 core elements. I will see you there. Have a wonderful week. Namaste. Thanks for listening to this episode of Mastering the Craft of Coaching. If you want to learn more about my work, come visit me at rachelbethcoaching.com. Hope you have a fantastic week. Till next time, see you then.